Daf Yud Dalet Amud Aleph. We'll begin Yud Gimel Amud Beis, 9 lines from the bottom at the 2 dots. The Mishnah said these are the halachas that were mentioned in the Aliyah of Hananiah ben Chizkiah ben Garan, and there were 18 gzeras that they were geyser on that day. Ushmoina also davar gazer. Ma'ini ushmoina also davar. What were the 18 dvarim, the 18 gzeras that they were geyser on that day? Thesnan ilu pais lemesa truma. These are the things that pasel truma. When we say pasel by truma, we mean the following. Things that are tome have the power to be matama something else. Now, in terms of chulin, items which are not truma, which are not kodshim, it continues that up to a sheni. So if there's an avatuma, for instance, if a sheretz touches a person, the person becomes a rishon l'tuma, becomes the first level of tuma. Then he touches something that becomes a second level of tuma, that becomes a sheni l'tuma. In chulin, in items which are regular items, which are not truma, which are not kodshim, that's as far as it goes. But in truma, it goes up to a shlishi. It goes further, one step further, shlishi. But it can't go further. So that's why it's called pasel. It pasels the truma. It makes it tome, but not tome that it can carry it further. So it's called pasel. Because as far as truma goes, a truma does not become a revi, but kodesh, kodshim, does become a revi. So if the sheni touches a truma, it pasel makes it a shlishi. If it touches kodshim, it doesn't pasel the truma, it pasel the kodshim rather. It's metama the kodshim, because that kodshim now can make a revi, it can go to the level of a revi, and it becomes a further level of tuma. Kodshim that comes into contact with the shlishi becomes a revi. Truma that comes into contact with the shlishi does not become tome. Now they were geyser on certain things, which certain items in certain circumstances will really min ha-Torah, it does not pasel the truma. It does not make the truma into a shlishi, but the Rabbanan were geyser that it should become a shlishi. So what are these items? Rishon. If a person eats an rishon l'tuma, now min ha-Torah, a person, generally speaking, a person does not become tome from an oichel. There is a case of nivos iftar, but generally speaking, a person does not become tome from a oichel. If a person becomes tome from an avatuma, a person min ha-Torah does not become tome from anything less than an avatuma. So oichel rishon. If a person eats a food item which is a rishon l'tuma, min ha-Torah, he's not tome. However, if that person eats a rishon l'tuma, if he touches truma, then that person pasels the truma. We treat him midrabanan, we treat it as a sheni, which makes the shlishi l'truma. And the same thing if he ate a sheni, not only the rishon, but even if it's a sheni, so certainly min ha-Torah, the person would not become tome, and certainly min ha-Torah, if he touched truma, it would not pasel the truma. Midrabanan it doesn't. We'll see shortly in the Gemara why is it. Why, and all of these items, the Gemara will go through it case by case. Why is it that they made this takana? If a person drank mashkim, liquids was your tome, same type of idea. Min ha-Torah, he's not tome. In Rabbanan, they gave it the power to pasel truma. In a case where a person is bo roish veru, he immersed himself, his head and most of his body in mayim shuvin, drawn water which is not kosher for a mikveh. The case we're talking about over here is a tzful yom. If a person becomes tome, he, for instance, touched the dead sheretz, that day he can be toivel in the mikveh. And that removes, after the tefillah, that removes some of the tumah. So he will not be metame chulin by touching it, or meiser. He will not be metame, but he will pasel, min ha-Torah, he will pasel truma until nighttime. That's called a tful yom. So if a tful yom immerse himself reish v'ruba in water which is not kosher for a mikveh, the Rabbanan said that we treat it like the tefillah that he did is not valid. So what does that mean? So as Tosfos points out, it means that even though Minat Torah, in any event, he cannot touch the truma, he passes the truma before nightfall. So even without the gzera, he cannot touch the truma. But after this gzera means that we treat it like he wasn't toiva, which means even at nighttime, he still can't touch the truma. We treat it like he was not toivel. It negates the tefillah that he did. If after the tefillah he immersed himself, reish v'ruba mayim she'uvim, it nullifies the tefillah that he did before. V'tor, in the next case, is a person is completely tor, she'nafal reish v'ruba shloisha lugim mayim she'uvim, someone who is completely tor, not a tul yom, and it fell and he showered with shloisha lugim, 3 lugim of mayim she'uvim. Sefer, if truma came into contact with a sefer, with a kosher sefer, which was psukim were written on it, the exact definition of sefer we'll see, but it came into contact with sefer kodesh, it makes the truma apostle. Vayadayim, stam yadayim, hands that didn't have netilas yadayim touch truma, it makes it into a shlishi. Va'atul yom, and a tul yom, the Gemara will ask, tul yom, we just mentioned, tul yom is a deraisa. They can't have truma come into contact with the tul yom deraisa, so the Gemara will discuss that. And oichlim and kalim that became toma with mashkim, then if that mashke touches the truma, it makes it possible. It makes it shlishi. We'll see in the Gemara the exact situation, circumstances over there. So coming back to the first case. The first case was oichel rishon v'oichel sheni. If a person eats food which is a rishon l'tumah or a sheni l'tumah, it makes the truma into a shlishi, it passes a truma. In fact, the Gemara mantana oichel rishon v'oichel sheni misel pasle tmuya loy metama. Who is the mandamer who says that if he eats an oichel rishon or a sheni, it makes the truma into a shlishi, but it doesn't make it tome. It doesn't make it into a sheni, which can pass the tuma to another level. If that came into contact with truma, it doesn't make it the sheni to passel it. If it came into contact with that, it only makes it passel. It makes it into shlishi, which means it cannot carry the truma further. If that truma touched other truma, it does not passel. So who's the mandama who says that if a person ate the food which is a rishon or a sheni, it makes the truma into a shlishi, but it doesn't make the truma into a sheni? The Tana is Rav Yishu. The Snan Rav Eliezer, Rishon. If a person eats Eichel Rishon, we say he becomes a Rishon, and therefore he'll make the truma into a sheni, not a shlishi. Eichel sheni, sheni. Eichel shlishi, shlishi. So according to Rabbi Eliezer, whatever the person eats, we gave him the same level of tuma, midrabanan, of course, we gave him the same level of tuma as the item that he ate. Rabbi Yishu, which is our Tana Yishu, sheni. We only treat him as a sheni, and therefore if he touches the truma, it will make it into a shlishi, not a sheni. Shlishi, if he eats a shlishi, it's sheni l'kodesh. We treat it as a sheni. If you ate a shlishi, we treat it as a sheni l'kodesh, vein sheni l'truma, but not a sheni l'truma. So what are we talking about over here? What type of item did he eat? Bechulin shenas al taras truma, where the chulin that he ate was chulin that was only treated with the stringency, with the chumras of truma. It was the derech of Talmidei Chachamim and certainly Kahanim, that even chulin, they ate it with the stringencies of the tuma, of a higher level of tuma. Since they were concerned that they should not be matama, truma and kachim, they ate it with a higher stringency of tuma. So, and they were machmir, that things that, even though by chulin it would be tohar, but if it would become tomai by truma or by kachim, they would treat it as a davar tomei. Now, if there was an item that was given the chumras of truma, only the chumras of the tuma of truma, and he ate that. Now, as far as kachim are concerned, we say that we treat it like it didn't have any shimur, like it was not protected, like it didn't have any chumrah. So therefore, if he ate it was a shlishi, we treat this shlishi. Now, even though it's a shlishi, and you should say that, well, therefore it should become a revi and not be able to be matama kodshim, but we say if he ate the shlishi, even if it's truma, if it's chulin shenas al taras truma, if it's chulin that was only given the chumras of truma but not kodshim, vis-a-vis the kodshim, as far as the kodshim is concerned, we treat it like it didn't have any stringency in chum at all. So we treat it like regular chulin. So therefore, even though it's a shlishi, we treat it like it didn't have any chumrah. We treat it like a rishon, and therefore it's a sheni l'kodshim. So it's therefore shlishi is sheni l'kodesh, ve'ein sheni l'truma. It's not a sheni l'truma. It's for kodesh. We're talking where it's b'chulin shenas al taras truma, where it only was given the chumras of the tara, the truma and tara of truma. So vis-a-vis kodshim, we treat it like it did not have this extra protection. So we treat it like a sheni, and therefore he becomes a sheni, and he'll make the kodshim into a shlishi. Okay, so now the Gemara is going to analyze why did the Rabbanan make this gzera? Why did they make a gzera that if a person eats food, which is a rishon l'tum min ha-Torah, is not matama the person at all? Certainly a sheni is not matama the person, but even a rishon min ha-Torah, a person only is makabel tuma from an avatuma. Why did the Rabbanan make this chumrah? My time ago, tuma. Why were the Rabbanan geyser tuma? Why did they say that the person, now if he touches truma, he makes the truma into a shlishi? Because sometimes a person, he might eat oichlin food which is tamei. And he might not realize, and he might, therefore, he has an oichl which is tuma. Now, it's not matame him, but when he has it in his mouth, and now if he drinks liquids of truma, he drinks some wine of truma. That wine of the truma, if it comes into contact with that food, which is a rishon, it'll make it tamei, and it's also to be matame truma. So therefore, the Rabbanan were geyser if a person now eats even a rishon or a sheni, letuma, the Rabbanan were geyser that you are now tamei. So therefore, he knows he can't eat, he can't put truma into his mouth. So he won't have the scenario that he will have the food which is tamei and truma which in his mouth at the same time, because if he eats a rishon or a sheni l'tuma, midrabanan, he himself becomes tamei. He can't even touch the truma. In fact, the Marashayim asking my time ago, why would they make the gzera on drinking something which is tamei? Midaraisa, if a person drinks wine, which is a rishon l'tuma, and so dead sheretz touched the wine. It's a rishon l'tuma. In a Torah, if a person drinks the wine, he's not tamei. But the Rabbanan were geyser that he becomes a sheni and make the truma shlishi. So same type of idea. The zimn, the sheisim mashkim tameim, because he might drink that v'shakel oichlin the truma, and he might put food which is truma. He might take some bread of truma v'shani l'puma and put his mouth and pasalu, and he'll make the truma also, which is also. Well, isn't that the same gzeras we had before? Why are we listing it as two separate gzeras? More answers mal the same. You might think, well, the first case is common. A person eats something, and then while he's eating something, he'll now take something to drink with it to help him swallow it. So that's a more common case. But you might think the second case is not so common. If a person has some wine, he's not likely to put in food while he has liquid in his mouth. It's not practical. You might think there weren't geyser in such a case. Kamashmalan, they're geyser both ways. The next gzer is that of a person who is a tful yom. So he touched the sheretz, he went to a mikveh, and it's not yet nightfall, it's that same day, so he's a tful yom. So min ha-Torah, he will pasel truma by touching it. At nighttime, he's tar. He will not, min ha-Torah will not pasel chulin and meiser, but he will pasel truma. Then the Bron were geyser, if he now immerses himself in water which is shu'uvin, drawn water, with water which is not kosher for a mikveh, it nullifies the tefillah that he made. My time it goes about tumar. Amar Avivi, Amar Avasi, Shebetchila hayu tayvim mei marais mechunos usruchim. originally they didn't have nice mikvahs. They had to be toivel, and they had to be toivel in natural water which wasn't drawn water, and it was in caves which had a foul odor. So, and then afterwards, to clean themselves off from the dirty water, they used to now pour on themselves drawn water, clean water. So people saw that this was what the custom was. People were noyeg. They went to the toivel in the Meimara, and then they washed themselves off. And they thought that this is the procedure. You have to now do both. So gozer leim tuma. So the Rabbanan would say, no, opposite. If you now go and wash yourself off, you're tomei. So in order to dispel that notion that you have to be toivel in clean water. So my keva, because people started saying that it's not the main mikveh that's mitar. Both, you need both the main mikveh and the clean water to wash yourself off with. So why did they have to be geyser? What's the problem? They're being toivel. Okay, so they'll think you have to wash yourself with clean water. Why are the consequences severe? So they'll think you have, but saif kol saif, they're being toivel in the main mikveh. No, what it means is that the people started to say it's not the main mikveh that's matayr, it's really the maim shuvim that's matayr, and therefore it came to a takola, distorted the halacha. People will think, oh, you have to be toivel, you wash yourself off with water, with drawn water, and that's matayr you. So to dispel that notion, they said opposite. If you now wash yourself off with the mei shuvim, it's going to be matama you. The next case is the tor shenafal reish ruach shleishim shu'uvim, or a person who's completely tor and he showers, he has fallen on him that 3 lugin of reish v'rubai. So my time it goes rabbanan. The person's tohar. Why is there reason to be geyser with that? My time it goes rabbanan bantuma. More answers. Because people, you will not be able to sustain the first takana if people say, well, you're tohar and you have shleisha lugim that fall on you, maim shuvim, it doesn't make you tomei. So why, if you are now a tful yom and it fell on you and you immersed in maim shuv, reisharu maim shuvim, why should it make you tomei? If by a Torah it doesn't make you tomei, why should by a tful yom make you tomei? So in order to have the consistency, in order to uphold the first gzera, they had to be geyser the second gzera as well. We'll see more details later in the Gemara. What's the significance of shleish lugim and some particulars in it, but in general terms, it really is not necessary, but it's only necessary to uphold the original gzera, the first gzera, by a tful yom who immerses himself. The sefer, and if you have kisvei kodesh, the sefer, my time it goes rabbanan truma. Why did they say if you put truma in sifrei kodesh that now it passes a truma? Sometimes to safeguard the truma, they used to put the truma in the kisvei kodesh, in the Megillah. They said this is kodesh and this is kodesh, so it's permitted to put this in and over here as well. But came the but then they had the food of the truma, they had it in the sifrei kodesh. Mice would come and eat it, and eat away at the sifrei kodesh. It would ruin the sifrei kodesh. So in order to now deter people from putting the truma into sifrei kodesh, goes to be rabbanon tuma. The regezer tuma, and they said opposite. If you're going to now put the truma on the kisvei kodesh, you're going to passel it. You're going to make it into a shlishi. And Tosfos points out that for chulin we didn't have to make this gzera because people wouldn't put chulin in the sifrei kodesh anyway because it's not kodesh, but truma is kodesh, and this is kodesh. People were doing it. They had to now deter them from doing it. They said opposite. If you put the truma there, it's tomei.